Okay, well, welcome today, everybody. This is a great group. Did we get some new faces in? Can you say hi?
Hi, my name's Jenny. I am the real estate development director for Sierra Club
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Shannon Hoffman. I'm the project manager for the Goldville Area Estancia Community Investment.
And can you say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Rowan Calder. I'm a Denver resident.
Excellent. We'll kind of find some more chairs.
Another chair over here.
Okay. All right. With that, I think I want to start moving into some material, and we will. We're recording English and Spanish right now. Okay, fabulous. All right. So I'd like to start just by introducing Mike Bouchard. He's with the National Western Center and Mayor's Office, and he's got a couple slides to take you through, and then we're going to talk a lot about process. Yeah.
Thank you, Beth, and welcome. Thank you, everybody. This meeting has been a long time coming. We've been working on this plan and our outreach and engagement strategy for well over a year now. So really excited to be here today. If you go to the next slide. We want to do some presentation first? Okay.
Yes, so I do want to just pause for a minute. I know we are getting set up and everyone did intros, but if you are online at this point, please select the language of using the little globe icon at the bottom of your screen if you haven't already done so. And if you do that, you should be tapped into the Spanish channel if that's your preference. Christy, can you say that in Spanish?
Hola, si me pueden escuchar, mucho gusto, me llamo Cristi Ornelas Mozo, trabajo con Beth y si quieren interpretación en español, tienen que presionar el icono que está abajo de su pantalla que tiene como un globito. Para escuchar en español, por favor, escoja la opción en español cuando le haga clic en ese icono. Gracias.
Okay, should have everybody where they want to be. Okay. All right, we got 2 more people. Okay, we're gonna say hello. Say hi. What's your name and who are you with?
I'm Bill Roberts. I'm with Everon.
Everon. Okay.
What is Everon?
Hi.
We are the old ADT commercial.
Oh,
Old ADT commercial.
Got it. Okay.
Local business.
Can you say hi?
Candy Sanawaka, Swansea resident.
This big guy.
This is Kanaloa, Swansea resident.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen him in so long. All right. Okay, let's get going. All right, Mike, why don't you continue with our first slides?
Next slide. All right, so this is our agenda today. As you may have seen, this is one of 2 meetings happening today. They're both the same content. We wanted to offer 2 different times. Honestly, this is great turnout. Sorry if it's a little cramped, but that's a great problem from our perspective. We love that all of you are out here to listen, to hear this briefing, and to understand how you can help us be successful in this very ambitious planning and engagement effort that we are kicking off today. So we are going to do, we've sort of already done welcome and introductions. We're going to talk a little bit about context and the plan overview. What are we doing? What are the goals? How did we get to where we are today? We'll walk in detail through the engagement process, the roadmap of how we are going to proceed for the next 18 months. Talk specifically about some key outreach strategies and where specifically we are looking for help from the community organizations represented in this room to help us be successful. And then obviously we'll leave some time at the end for discussions and questions. We'll talk about next steps and give you the sort of runway about how this is going to be rolled out to the broader GES neighborhoods. Next slide. Did this.
That was easy.
I want to welcome our planning team. So Beth, and they'll talk a little bit more about themselves as we go through, but Beth Vogelsang with OV Planning and Design, as well as folks from MIG. Both of these groups have been working in these neighborhoods for a long time. MIG specifically helped with led the campus master plan for the National Western Center. So they have deep roots. Beth has, I was going to say been around forever, but I don't mean like that. But we're really glad to have these folks leading this effort for the National Western Center and the mayor's office. So next slide. Okay, so what are we doing? What is the Triangle Community Vision Plan? So in a nutshell, it is an 18-month planning and community engagement process. It is addressing this area of the site. It is 78 acres. It includes what we lovingly refer to as the Triangle, which typically is the area north of I-70. But the area south of I-70, the Coliseum site, is also a critical component in the overall plan and making sure that we're looking at this entire area and how all of the parts and pieces fit together in order for this to be successful. I will caveat that that area south of I-70, the Coliseum site, is very contaminated. It is a Superfund site, and the cleanup costs involved with making that site available for redevelopment are significant. And so that is very likely a future phase, but we thought it was really important to make sure it's part of the overall plan and vision, and ultimately the site plan that comes out of this process, because it's a critical piece on how all of these parts function together.
Will you be sharing the slides?
Yes,
We will
absolutely.
make.
Also, we are recording this and we will share this video for folks who cannot make it to this meeting. And eventually it will be posted. We're still working on our website, but it will be posted on our website. So we will, part of what you'll hear about today is our commitment to transparency throughout this entire process and making sure that all of the materials and the meetings that we have are available for review by the broader public throughout the duration. Yes, Wanda.
I know that the focus of this is to find out what the community wants, what we need, and all that, to come up with a comprehensive development plan. That's fine, I get that. But on a high level, 30 bit, whatever, what type of funding sources are you looking at? I mean, on a very, very high level, obviously there's private development, it's gonna be, we have to look at that, because who else is gonna come in here too on this project? At federal level, I think that's pretty much gone. And it's also the only resources I see is the state, local, and then maybe some bond at the local level. And could you just touch on that briefly? I know we're not down into the weeds and any of that stuff yet, but I just want to have an idea of what the city's looking at in terms of mechanisms to get this a project of this magnitude off the ground.
To your point, a project of this magnitude and this expanse of 78 acres will require every tool we have at our disposal from a financial perspective. So we are looking at all options. All options are on the table. We will absolutely get into that as we go through this planning process, and that'll be part of the conversation about what it's going to take once we have this vision plan. What are the steps and pieces and resources necessary to actually implement that plan? So that will be a big component, and we'll talk about that more. So I don't have anything more specific than just saying, what do you got? Do you have any other options? Anything else you want to bring to the table? We are looking at every single resource that we can find to help make this a success in the end of the day. So just maybe to close out, the result of this will be a final site plan. And I want to be clear that, this is all considered campus land. It's part of the National Western Center. And insofar as it is part of how we treat all of this land per the framework agreement. And we'll get into this as we get into the full kind of public workshops. But there is, we have campus partners, including CSU, the Western Stock Show Association, and the National Western Center Authority, who are integral to how the campus develops, and they will be part of this process moving forward. And then all of this is under the auspices of the approved master plan for the campus. All of this work that we're talking about in the 78 acres is underneath that master plan. This will be a more detailed site plan that follows through on the goals and the mission and vision of the master plan. And so that is the ultimate output of this process. Yes or no?
I hate to keep jumping in here, but as vision and all that other fun stuff. I just keep thinking of the, I don't want to say obstacles or the burdens, but if I'm a planner and I'm looking at this project, okay, what are some of the zoning issues that might come to play? Say, whatever the development we come up with, housing, whatever it may be, or the contamination. So are those going to be kept on the side as we move forward, and then identify those, and then as we as a community identify I call it a conceptual review plan, because that's what it is. You have to get a plan and it has to be reviewed by the city in order for it to get approved. Once you've got all the zoning and all that other fun stuff in place, also the contamination component of that. So again, my question is, do we identify the issues that are gonna take us to the essential high-level conceptual review plan? And then we work in concert with those to how can we resolve those as we move forward?
Okay, I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna walk us through this and we will answer those questions as we go, okay? Because you're gonna see how we are gonna do this together, and yes, yes, and yes. We have to look at all those pieces as we're going. What are we planning for? And then how will we move those forward after we finish our plan? Okay, so if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in.
One more
on
thing.
this process.
I just want to personally thank the CAL members, and I'm just going to use it. The community outreach work group. We spent 6 months through a long series of meetings, really working out how should we as the city be engaging with GES communities in this effort in a different way. And I really just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. And you will see as we go through. Of note, we actually sort of mapped out all of the CAL recommendations and how and where we are taking those forward and implementing this on this planning effort. So you'll hear a lot about that. I just want to acknowledge and thank you for your time and look forward to showing you how we've taken that to go. Yes.
Yeah. It's all gonna be in there.
Okay.
So,
And I will say,
okay, thank you, Mike.
There
All
is a-
right.
There is an infrastructure correction that needs to be made, though, that I'm gonna impose, if I may, real quickly. When you say that and thank you for acknowledging the cow, and there's a lot to be explored there. When you describe it as the CSU, the Western Stock Show Association, and the National Western Center Authority are predominant, that is an incorrect, and I just want to be clear, we all understand that the three capital partners are Colorado State University, Western Stock Show Association, and the City of Denver. The National Western Center office that you're with, Mike, it's created by the mayor's office. It's an executive order. I want to be really clear, and I want us to understand that the National Western Center Authority is a nonprofit organization that is not a city, not supposed to be a city-centered organization that is handling the administration operations and the distribution of the funds through the framework agreement. We can talk more about that, and I have a bias because I feel like we need an office that isn't just an executive order. This is the city is a capital partner, and we're the city and the city administration. So anyway, I just want to have that on the table throughout the discussions, because this is the true structure of what this is and the context of where the citizens can understand the full
And participate.
entry points. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start and we'll address questions as we go, but I have lots to share, so this is part I want to make sure we get through. So just recognizing, just to build on what Mike was saying, our 78 acres sits between Elaria, Swansea, and Globeville, and this is very important to us because those are the communities that need to be at the table for this process. So as we look at this, we say, all right, this is our context and where we're going to be working. And we're going to be doing a master plan. Go ahead and go forward. And I want to talk through all the components of this master plan because there are a lot, which gets to a little bit of Armand's question is, are we going to be looking at this? Are we going to be looking at that? How are we going to do this? And this is going to be very complete and comprehensive, integrated engagement and planning process. So we know there are physical components that are required of the site, like an arena, the stadium arena renovation, expo hall space. These are on the list, right? We have to acknowledge that. We know that to make this site come to life, we have to have horizontal infrastructure. We have to have transportation, utilities, drainage, stormwater. These things will be designed into our site planning so that we know the site is operational at the end, okay? So lots of considerations there. Additionally, we know land use has to be examined, and we know affordable housing is top of the list. We also know that there needs to be sort of a mix of uses. Maybe there are small business incubator spaces, maybe there's retail. So what other uses do we want in the mix of our land use? Then we have community spaces, and we don't know exactly how that plays in yet, but we know plazas, parks, trees, green space, anything that is considered more of the public realm and part of a benefit to the community in this, in this site. And really woven throughout all those elements of our plan, we need to understand the role that we have in community ownership of aspects of this site. So we're going to be looking at that and studying that as we go through our planning process. We're also going to be identifying community benefits. So whether that's a plaza or a program, doesn't matter right now, we don't know, but we will be identifying community benefits as well. So there are many, many pieces for us to all get our arms around and to pull together and synthesize as we develop this site plan. Yes.
Yeah, as you know, there's different types of community ownership. Right now, in District 9, there's I think it's an apartment complex that has, I think it's a land agreement or somewhere where the residents own part of the structure. Can you, as we go through this process of identifying community ownership, can you talk or discuss, or maybe our planner Daniel here or whomever, identify the different types of business models that currently exist out there? I know that
Yes.
they've gone to a nationwide concert or not concert, development center and stuff, and to bring those in so
Yes.
everybody can share and brainstorm what they would
That's
like to see.
absolutely what we should do. We should bring everything we can learn, and we have various resources to draw on. So we will bring all those ownership models, those options, what are our choices, and what is the best model that aligns with all these things we need to do on this site. And that will be the conversation that we'll have in the process, not today, but in this process. Yeah, okay, so that is the plan, so let's move forward. Okay, so to achieve this plan, this could be the most important slide of the entire thing. Everyone is part of this process, everyone has a role to play, okay? So the community, the broader community, so those of you who are residents that are here that are not necessarily with an organization, you have a role and a voice in this process, and we're going to talk about how we can make that happen. Yes, Armando.
I'm sorry. Can you go back to because I think there's something that's really critical. And
In
one of
the
reasons-
plan,
Yeah.
okay,
From my perspective, I think the most critical component for 80216, as you know, we're the most contaminated zip code in America. There needs to be, from my perspective, an environmental neighborhood community plan, and I think that should be up there. That should not be omitted. That to me is critical,
got it.
because that to me is the fundamental concept behind our neighborhood. And that should be the driving force of everything that we do is it has to come from an environmental standpoint and how we can improve the air quality in our life, air quality in our buildings, air quality in the dirt. All the commercial buildings there that dirt are still contaminated, and that's not going to change. So my point is, we need to make this a better place to live if we're going to have and take all these roles on.
Okay,
And that should be the number one thing up there.
okay. So
Environmental-
in regard to the
Can I
site
make a
plan,
request? All of these things, including myself that we're bringing up, are important. I really want to understand the process of engagement, which is the focus of today. There's, for the last 2 years, the concepts of the contrast of land ownership. I don't know if you've been in the meetings, Armando, but this is an active discussion that's been brought to the agenda, the environmental concerns and
Yes.
zoning. These are things we're going to be talking
we will
about
be
as
talking
content.
about it a lot.
So I would like to invite you to, maybe we could hold our questions, including myself, until we can I want to get a real clear understanding
Okay,
of how you're seeing this and how it relates to what the cow brought to you, and
that would be
and then we
great,
can
and
get back
then
to the details.
know that all of these things,
They're on the agenda.
funding, ownership, environmental, they will all be part of our
There's
site
been a
plan
lot of people
discussion.
involved in the discussions leading into this.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to move us forward, so just to get back to this is the premise of things, right? The community needs to be at the table, the community organizations need to be at the table, the Triangle project team, and by that includes campus partners and the NUCO office, and the mayor's office, and the consultant team. So the Triangle project team is sort of a mix of folks, and the council. So you're gonna see how we have integrated all those players in this process and how we've checked all the things that you requested is to the very best that we could, the best we can. Okay, let's move forward. So, couple other premises. Our engagement and planning process is very integrated. The design team is not going to be over here doing planning and then they'll ask you what you think. That's not how it's going to work. It's going to be together. You're going to be at the table and they're going to be developing design with your input. So we are building on the cow. That's our checklist, and we're gonna go through some things. We have created as many opportunities to participate as we can. We're open to ideas, but we've really tried to create those. And the entire underlying framework is centered on the idea of co-creation and shared decision making, which is the fundamental thing that the cow asked for. Okay, so we have woven that into the full process. Okay.
I know what he said, but
Yeah.
I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Can you define shared decision making for me?
Yes, you're going to see it come to life.
Okay.
Let's talk it through.
I said,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for setting that up. Yeah.
Okay,
Great question.
it is a great question, because it's not that easy, right? I mean, none of this is gonna be easy. Maybe we should just all agree right now, we're in this together and it's not necessarily gonna be easy. Okay. These are the goals that came out of the COW plan. So the things across the top: collaborative and empowering community engagement, support a thriving, connected, resilient community, create mechanisms and structure for community voice, and provide transparent and two-way communication. So that's our starting point. That's what we said, okay, so whatever we do, we kind of got to address those goals. We are going to be doing engagement, and we are going to be doing technical site planning, and there will be a lot of technical work, engineering that has to be looked at, site constraints and challenges, and these have to come together in this shared decision-making process. And that's what we're going to walk through. And that is how we're going to get to final triangle plan. Okay, so that's what we're bringing to you, and that's what we want to do. So let's go to the next slide. And I just want to note.
There it is in
Oh, it's
Spanish.
in Spanish. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That one can, yeah.
Okay, but I think we have interpretation, so I think we're okay. 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 This is our basic outline. We are starting now. This is it. This is your at the starting event. We are starting now, and we are going to continue through spring of 2027. It's a long process. Like we said, there's a lot of work and a lot of detail. So it's like a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, let's click again. All right, we are going to be this is going to be our planning process that we're going to go through. So in this first month, we are looking at existing conditions, mapping what are those stormwater challenges, what are our transportation challenges, what is the community historic context. We're going to definitely get into that. What does the community want to say about their history and their culture? We're going to be adding that and collecting that. What are the vision and goals, which we kind of know, but we're going to confirm. And all of that's going to take place in this first phase. As we move into phase 2, we're going to do idea generation. So we're saying bubble diagramming, and the reason we say that is that it's not too real yet, but we're generating all these ideas, we're circling, we're talking about things that could happen on this site and within the space that we have to work on, and we'll be going through a process to do that. Those ideas and those bubble diagrams will become our alternatives, our actual physical alternatives for the site, okay? And if you look, we aren't into those real roll up our sleeves alternatives where we're really analyzing until 2026, okay? And out of those alternatives, we will all choose a final site plan. Okay, that's the idea. So I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do that and how we're going to meet your interests and requests through the COW and achieve this planning process. All right. Okay, I want to take one step back. If you take everything that we just went through, that's us in the middle, those 4 phases. One of the other fundamental ideas is that there have been many planning processes already. We're not forgetting them. We're not ignoring them. They will have to be woven in. So we're recognizing that. We're also recognizing the COW engagement plan specifically, especially in our conversation today. And when we finish this site plan, and this is a really important outcome, and it's Armando, to your question, we will have a site plan that is ready to move into CPD's development process. This will not just be a pretty picture. It just won't be something that goes to the shelf, like we always say. This will be the site plan that moves to CPD to move through the development process, which just means it needs to be approved as a large development, in a large development review. We will also then be ready to move into rezoning. So we won't have another long process to get us there. We will be ready to move into both the framework and the rezoning. And all things going well, and we collect millions of ideas around community ownership, we will also have a preferred community ownership model, and we'll be able to go to RFP to help implement that. So that's the goal of coming out of these 4 phases. So it's a lot. Yeah.
I know EDC don't ask questions. I gotta ask for clarification as well.
Yeah, the clarification.
Clarification.
My point is, when does that become part of the neighborhood plan for the city and county?
Oh, that's a great question. So the neighborhood plan, it doesn't have to be part of the neighborhood plan. It wouldn't have to be. We can explore whether we want to amend the neighborhood plan to include this map, this site plan. It can also be separate. It is a component of the master plan for National Western. It's kind of under that umbrella as opposed to the neighborhood plans, but neighborhood plans can also reflect changes in the community. So I don't have an answer for you, but that's a great question. Maybe we can decide where we want to go with that.
Can I ask for a second clarification?
Yes.
My understanding is that the city has an order of plans that, like, when city council looks at any sort of amendment to land use, it's like Blueprint Denver,
Yeah.
neighborhood plan,
Yes.
master plan. So where does that fall within?
So
You made it sound like those don't come into play, but they still do.
They are absolutely influencing our thinking. So we should not develop anything that is in contrast with your neighborhood plans. I mean, we want to be consistent with. This is a special, so Blueprint guides the whole thing, and then the neighborhood plans are next. And then we kind of move into either special area plans, or that affects whether you rezone into special site plans, okay? So the National Western Center Master Plan is our guiding document for this site because it's part of this site. So we have to be consistent with that. But I think in the vein of recognizing all the other planning efforts, I think it's good for us to tie back to our neighborhood plan and ensure consistency. And like I was saying to Rhonda, we should think about that. What do we want to do with that? And do we need to or want to amend the neighborhood plan or add to that plan with the outcomes of this? I don't think we have to decide that right now, but it's something that we can certainly think about.
But from like the city ordered process, doesn't it have to follow the guide? Like, they didn't create Blueprint Denver or the neighborhood plans for no reason. Like,
Yes,
those are still critical
we
to,
will
like,
still,
implementing.
we will look at all of those. In fact, we can even align with those. Yeah, go
And
ahead.
they're fairly broad, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
We're way
room and a lot of
down.
flexibility to do what the community is asking for on this site and still be consistent with those plans. Right, and you'll see as we go through the process, updates
Yeah.
with council and all those things. So I think
We're
that-
just at a lower, we're so much farther down in the weeds at the site level. So we
Yeah.
will be consistent back up.
And that's what I mean, that it's like
Absolutely.
regardless of like where it falls, where it has to be consistent. with
It will
the
be
plan.
consistent. Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
But again, one of the key components is the environmental plan, and it's not even in the National Western Plan. That's what I'm saying. We need to integrate that and have that be one of the key components.
That is informing where we go with things and how we work and being woven into our own process too. Okay, let's go to the next one because this is just the starting point and the ending point. Okay, now, don't be overwhelmed, but this is a lot and I'm gonna walk you through it, so don't worry. But I want to point out one thing. So these are our 4 phases, right? And under each phase, we have many activities. And we have a copy to come around so you can keep track when we walk through it. I want to say that one of the most important steps regarding this graphic that you're going to be getting is this black box at the bottom. So as we go through phase 1, and we have all these events, and we're going to talk about all these things, we are going to collect survey results. We are going to let that guide our thinking. What are people saying? We're going to have had community conversations as well. We are going to ensure that the design team has all of those results and understands what the community is saying. And we are going to meet with Watson or other council folks, other offices, and we're going to ensure that everyone's on the same page. Okay? And that is really critical because we will not move to phase 2 until we have all seen and agree this is the outcome of phase 1. Here's where we are. So if this phase 1 is about confirming values, we will have our values by the end of phase 1. Okay, and you should feel that they are representing your values. Okay, so these checkpoints are super important to us as we move through the process. And we don't go any farther until we are all on the same page. Okay, that's the idea. All right.
So I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What does howdy mean?
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Okay, let's go to the next one. We're gonna. Okay.
We're gonna go through each of those
We're
things.
gonna
Yeah.
go through these because this is an overwhelming graphic, but we wanted you to have it as a full picture. So if we go to the next one, oh, that's the Spanish
Spanish
version
version
on
of
the back side or the front side, whichever way you have it.
Have a minute to digest that. Yeah.
Okay, so this is phase 1. So in your graphic, you're in the first column. This is what we're gonna do. Okay, like we said, we're looking at all the plans, okay? Any and all, if you feel there's others we should be looking at, or you feel environment is important, you tell us, we will get this into this box. This is the technical team, the technical planning process. We are here today at our community organizations meeting to share this process with you. You're literally the first box. Okay, we're taking anything we learned from you, we're taking those plans, we're doing some historic conditions work, and we will host a kickoff event with the public. That's in November. We'll talk about that a little more. November 13th is going to be the date for this kickoff event. At that kickoff event, we'll have a lot of information and we will launch our first survey. And we'll have that open for a while. And that first survey will do things like confirm goals and values and all the things that we want to talk about. And those results will go up to the technical team. And then they will feed our summary that's at the end of phase 1. Okay, so in this one, this is the somewhat simplistic first phase. We just get started, okay? All right, let's go to the next one.
Spanish. And I think one thing, the last box was the area captain process. If you want.
Yes, but we're not going there yet.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
But
so
it's there.
in the next phase, phases 2 and 3, remember phase 2 was the bubble diagrams, and phase 3 is we're getting really real about these alternatives. Same process, so I just lumped them together. They look the same. Okay, we're going to talk about area captains, but they're a key part of this, but we're going to get to that detail in a minute. We're going to do howdy and handouts to get to Angela's question, which is just a name right now. You can rename it if you'd like, but it's about distributing information and making sure everyone's aware. That's really the intent. And it's like pop-up events and hosting and getting the word out. If you want to call it something else, you can. Okay, we're going to have small community workshops. And these small community workshops are going to be 5 small scale workshops within each phase. So this is 5 community workshops. We will go around to different geographies and we will host the same meeting, but spread across the community, okay? And then all of that we learn in this phase goes up to the design team and they will work with that information to refine the site to get these bubble diagrams or alternatives, whichever phase we're on, refined. And then that will come back to our community organizations meeting. We'll share that back with you guys and discuss. And it will go to it will inform our survey, which will then be implemented and everyone can participate. And then those results become the format of what we take forward as the summary for that phase, the design team integration, and our council update, okay? So that's how we're gonna do it, and then we're gonna group it all together and make sure we're all on the same page. So that process happens in phase 2 and 3. And then in phase 4, it's a somewhat similar situation, but we have a little bit less. We have our workshops, 5 of them, again, so there's a total of 15 community workshops over the course of this. We refine, the design team works with everything they're hearing. We come back to you guys, we develop a survey so that you can weigh in. And in this case, in phase 4, this survey is your vote on the final site plan. So that is, you're going to be choosing the site plan, okay? You know, and we will have worked through all the details of that so that they're workable. They'll have to be real, you know, they have to work operationally, and we will have all been doing this work together. But in the end, you will have the opportunity to weigh in on and vote that for the site plan. And then we will develop the final site plan drawing. MIG will give us some beautiful work, and we will have our ending wrap-up party. Okay? It's ambitious, it's a lot, but it's gonna produce a great plan if we all engage, and if we all do it, and we all kind of get into it. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Another clarifying question. So each phase culminates into a survey. And you stated that we won't move on unless it's been approved.
We won't move on unless we all can see those results, understand the results. We feel it reflects what we've been talking about, right? So we should, it's not as it have to be approved, but it has to reflect our phase of work.
So
you'll have all the answers, you'll see what is coming out.
Yeah, I understand. So just to finish that.
Yeah.
How are you measuring reflection? Like, is it a percentage of approval? This reflects in like the number of participants, and then a majority of that is consensus for reflection. And I think it's important because if you're saying that we won't move on unless, but if you're not stating how you'll measure that, then
yes,
I've experienced in many city planning efforts where well, we have to move on regardless becomes the default answer.
Well, yeah, right. Well, we do someday. We do have to finish, but
if it's clear now,
but
we
it's
can move
clear.
along further.
Yeah,
easier if that's
and
clear
and
now.
I think what we want to do, I guess let's not use the word approve because it's not an approval, but it's an agreement that you have been heard. You can see your answers in the results of not just the survey, but all the conversations we've had. You attended the community meetings or workshops, and you can see that the site plan is reflecting those concerns or those needs. So it isn't, we can quantify how many people did the survey. We can quantify the answers of the survey. We can quantify many things. We can quantify how many people participated in the workshops or other events. But the idea of are we all feeling good about this and are we all on the same page is going to be a reflection of the outcome of all the work you do through that phase.
Just to end, that just sounds very vague. Like
Yeah,
that could
it's a
culminate.
little tricky.
Well, it could not be tricky, and it could either be yes, we overall agree.
Yeah.
It's a reflection, or no, we don't, or I'm unclear. Like I feel like that could be a very simple, clear question that you can measure.
And then we can measure,
the
do
ability
we
to
all
move on or
feel,
not.
is the majority of people feel that this reflects what they need?
Because if it doesn't reflect it,
Yes, we,
And I think
absolutely.
those are great points. And I think
They
what
are.
you're getting to is how the surveys are designed and what are the
Yep.
questions in the survey. And that's exactly right. So those kind of questions need to be in there so that we can measure those answers, right? And make sure
Yes.
so the
People
survey hasn't
here.
been designed yet.
they will be
No,
designed as we
as
go
we
through them.
go.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions for you because we haven't worked on it yet.
Thank
So,
yeah.
I really appreciate these clarifying questions. I want to be clear, I did not say no questions. So Armando, this is about us understanding the sequence of process and getting into content. I appreciate that.
And these are very good
Those are
questions.
great, yeah.
And to add my
yes.
clarifying question.
Yes.
You need to, what Alfonso is leading to, I think, can be simply put, we have to define all, what the heck all means. Counting statistical responses is not qualitative understanding.
Right.
It's not
That's
just
right.
feeling happy about, it's understanding what is at stake, where were the decisions made, what's negotiable, what are engineering constraints versus benefits and value system constraints. We have to open this discussion up. So I'm alert to this survey focus.
Mhm.
Surveys are a statistical public relations type of way of presenting a marquee of consensus that isn't helping necessarily us understanding. So as
Yeah.
you go through the
I
finishing
agree.
this process, is there a way that you can create, has there been created entry points for constituents, actual neighbors to be involved
Yes.
directly with an open discussion of survey design, being with the design team, I don't like the
Yes.
hierarchy, we're gonna go take it up to. How
Right.
can we open up? I've always wished that people
Okay.
could sit in the design process and see. So I'm asking. for
Okay, so let's get to that. I do want to say those are very good points from AE and our intent. Okay, which we have to operationalize. So, sometimes thinking about how we're going to do it is it's hard, right? So your ideas are fabulous. We have to make sure that you're participating in this design process, that these conversations are open and you feel that you're being heard. That's the goal, okay? We have a lot of ways we can do it. A survey is just one tool. It does give us more quantifiable things, so that's a different tool than just we had a conversation and we listened, but we have to, it's gonna be all of it. And your participation in this is gonna be critical to us getting a good understanding of where you are and what we're doing. So I'm gonna have to just ask you to sort of work with us as we go and keep these questions coming. How can we make this work better?
Can you accept
Yes.
to us the information you need to, can we extend this to 11:30 or not? Because
Oh, yeah,
I just want to point out to all of us, we've got to get this information in front in
Yes,
order to
we're here,
respond
we're
to
good.
holistic process.
Yeah.
Yes, question.
All right.
appreciate
Yep.
what Alfonso brought up because it really dives into some really deep discussions that the cow had for a long time about, well, if we made some really bold numbers about like, we need in this phase,
Yes.
X%.
75%.
Yeah, and then like we're working our way in different phases. But, so it sounds like you guys are shooting for that, which is great, but then one of the big discussions we had was, there are, I think, 4 main bullet points that National Western has to have included in the plan. What if the community doesn't agree with that? What if we don't approve?
Well, I think that we need to, as we enter into this process, we probably all have to have a reasonable expectation of what has to be addressed. Okay, like Armando is saying environmental has to be in there. Okay,
Which it is, your sustainability and
Right,
your.
so that has to be there.
Trees and parks.
the elements that are part of the National Western finishing out the plan have to be addressed. Okay, but as does the community ownership model and as does the community benefits and what is coming. So right now, all of those things are on the table and we have to get through all of them.
And on all of our behalf in the neighborhoods over years of discussion, how the information is released into the neighborhood from the work team that is working with the city administration is what we need to understand.
Yes.
What these trade-offs are, what is negotiable, what isn't negotiable. And so that's why I'm saying it isn't all about, we need, a huge part of it is, and I'd like you to address it,
Yes.
and you're probably about to, right? How are we gonna get the information so we can understand together why decisions might be engineering versus do they have?
Yes, you're gonna understand, absolutely,
let's-
like, if
let's
I
hope
tell
for
you
that.
we can't put that there because there's a flooding issue, well, we gotta deal with that, right? And you're gonna understand the site.
But also in
Yes.
terms of the framework, the laws that go, the agreements, all of the why does this have to be
The
done?
why.
And I say, sort of, our role in this as planners, right, is
Yes.
not to be the planner, right? Is to be the technical support to help the community plan through those workshops, right? So
And
we want you,
technical mentoring is a
Yeah.
very big part of that. I'm addressing this
Absolutely. I
a
love
bit
that
aggressively
phrase.
because this has been a deficiency in my experience for all the way back to the global neighborhood plan, which was the initial, that there's been a deficiency of getting real clear, understandable information about what the trade-offs are, and we can talk more about that.
Absolutely.
And what the
That's
potentials are.
I totally, that's fabulous.
So we'll come back to that.
Okay, so I'm gonna touch on this and then I'm gonna have Finn talk about some of those strategies that you wanna hear about. This shared, but just to come back to the shared decision-making, like, okay, what we are doing is we are trying to create a process. So unlike the survey is only one tool. This shared decision-making has to be woven throughout our process, right? You're at the table, you're participating, you're at meetings, you're at workshops, you're communicating with the project team. Like AE said, you understand the technical challenges of the site and the community needs. This will not be a mystery to you. You will probably be like, that's enough, I don't wanna know anymore. That is what we have to get to, and through that process, we can make good decisions together. So that is fundamentally, we're gonna have so many points of, and opportunities of engagement and participation that you are helping to make those decisions. And that is the sharing in the decision-making process, especially in the choosing of the final site plan. We are gonna verify that, and maybe this is a better word, not approve it. We are gonna verify that by adding some surveys to gather input, okay? And that's just one tool, like I said. The survey is gonna be administered by a company called Civic Trust. If any of you participated in CPD's participatory budgeting process on the west side, that's the same company and the same tool that we're going to use. They had a lot of success with that. It's very, it's not just Survey Monkey, you know, it's not just us collecting and saying, oh, here's the results. So you're able to input through this survey, you're able to submit ideas, you're able to click and like different things and weigh in. You're able to share your demographics so that we know how many people are we reaching? Are we hitting those goals for outreach? And you're able to vote at the end. So it has a lot of functionality, so that's why we chose that. But again, it's not the only tool, it's just one tool, okay?
And the survey's going to be created through this process.
Yes.
So we're going to have input.
Yes, you're going to know what we're going to be asking you, and that's going to be a reflection of what you've been telling us.
I don't wanna just know it, I wanna influence it. I want us to influence it.
Yeah.
I just,
Yes.
survey design is really, really important, and it's really easy to manipulate that tool based on what questions you ask. And so I would like to know how community will approve of the design of the survey, will input, like not just be aware of what is going to be asked. Awareness is a pretty low level of engagement. But like how there's co-design of that survey tool. To really truly get at, like, do we approve it, or, you know, it's like the bond election where, do you like public transportation? Okay. Also, we're gonna do a, $1 million vanity project for the governor, whatever.
Right. Okay, all right, I noted, I hear you. I don't have an answer to how we're going to design that together yet, but just know, I understand what you're saying, and that will be something we can work with Civic Trust to determine how to help influence how we ask those questions, okay? And then what can be developed, like it is a tool as well. So we will work on that, for sure.
I know it can like open a can of worms, but have you guys considered?
It's all a can of worms.
Yeah, having some of the community approve the surveys before they go out to the greater community.
Approve them, like approve it.
Oh, yeah. Provide the input before it's at its final publishing.
Okay, yeah, that can be another way to do it. Okay, so noted, we'll come back on that. I don't know an answer yet, but we'll work on that for sure. Okay, let's go forward, just so we keep going.
Yep.
Okay, now Finn is with MIG, and she is also gonna work with us on this, and she is gonna describe some of those specific strategies. So in your little handouts, okay, there's like all these boxes and all these colors, and Angela had said, what's howdy in handouts? And there's this thing called the Captain's Program. So Finn's gonna walk us through some of these in more detail, and I'm hoping that the way we've structured those programs gets to AE's concern about how are you gonna actually be out there doing this, okay? So let Finn, and we can talk about it, okay? So Finn, if you need to come around.
Can you guys hear me good right here? Okay, I'm kind of trapped.
Can they hear you online?
Can you hear me online?
Yes.
I feel like, yes. Okay, cool. So thank you, Beth. My name is Finn Sutton. Just as a quick introduction, I'm with MIG. I'm a planner and I do a lot of community engagement around the country. So I'm really excited to be working on this project and be here with you all today. I'm happy to talk to you after about anything else. Like Beth mentioned, we're going to run through a couple of those squares that are on your paper and that we saw on the diagram previously. We won't run through all of them for the sake of time, but happy to run back to them if you have specific questions. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the area captains process. So this was something we heard directly from the CAL plan, that area captains would be a great tool for this engagement process. The way we've designed it is up to 12 individuals, and I'll mention that in a moment. These folks will be working directly with their neighborhoods, their specific geographies, their friends, their family, and then also working directly with the project team. This is a full commitment through the 18-month of this process, and it's also a paid role. I'll go into the responsibilities in a moment, but we can look at, yeah. So we just wanted to briefly touch on the geographies of these folks. So like we've mentioned a couple of times, we really want to make sure as many voices are heard as possible throughout the neighborhoods. Are you okay?
I'm good. You're
okay.
perfect. Thank you.
As many voices throughout the neighborhoods are heard as possible. We really want to bring as many voices to the table. So essentially we've created this map of residential geographies throughout that the captains would represent each of these geographies. They would live within this area, and then they would participate in a couple of those squares events within those geographies. So it's really just concentrating their efforts in order to reach as many people as possible.
Ben, can you comment on the number of homes? So there's a certain number of residents.
So you'll see a range of households there, the biggest one being 600 for AC12, and then it going down to about 200. We were trying to keep the numbers between about 200 and 400 households for sake of flyering and walking around and connecting one-on-one with people. The number 600 and 444 are a little bit higher because there are large resident, high density, like apartment buildings in those areas. And knowing that we likely won't be able to like flyer every door within an apartment building unless we have a connection of someone who's in there, it would be like a little bit less connecting with that apartment building. So
it's just representing that there's a lot of apartments. You're not going to go to every apartment. You're just going to go to the main
the front desk if possible.
Yeah, so this is the strategy of trying to divide up. So this gets to a couple key things you guys brought up. You want accountability. How many people are we reaching? Can we show that we're reaching X percentage of people in the neighborhood? So this is a strategy that helps us also account for who we're speaking with and if we're really covering the geography of the neighborhoods.
Yeah. Okay, so let's.
More of a technical question, maybe logistical. I know you said that you're going to share the presentations out. Would you all be willing to also share like any background data that you use to like produce the maps, like shape files and all that stuff?
I think so. I don't see why not.
GeoJSON,
It's all
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Public resource
It's all
stuff, so-
public resources anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't get that information. That's why he's asking.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
We
totally.
asked for it like multiple times in other places and we never received it. So the fact that you have it and we can get access to that is better. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. we would
I
love to
guess I
share.
have a question about that as well. With a lot of these, there are not 400 households currently in AC11. But I know that's reflective of some of those apartments and stuff that are over there. So are you considering occupancy rates? Are you considering people who don't really give a crap about the history of this neighborhood and they're just kind of living there because they want to be close to downtown or something else? Like,
So it's a great question. So what we did, and we can't make it completely totally fair, right? Like, you know, I don't know if they don't want to participate or they don't give a crap. We can't fix that, right?
We might be able to.
But we hit all the area within the two neighborhoods. That was step one. We had to have full coverage of the two neighborhoods of residences, okay? Not the industrial uses, say, on Washington or something, okay? And so I understand that some areas obviously will have a higher level of interest than other areas that are maybe farther away or even just heading south. But we have to create a process that allows for everyone to engage. They may not, they may choose not to, but we need to understand. So when you come back and you ask us, did you reach 75% or whichever number we're trying to hit? If we can show you that we spoke or heard from people all within proximity of this area who we know are super engaged and really care, but our numbers are lower, let's just pretend down in this area, maybe that's something we can all understand. Like, yeah, I get it. They might not actually care. It doesn't mean we don't have to try, and we aren't going to try, but we need to get a reflection of who we're hearing from, and this is going to help us. And there's nothing magical about these lines. If you tell me that line should go over another block, it's fine. These are just a good estimate of how to organize our captains. Okay.
And it's like,
Yes.
When did Elyria and Swansea become one neighborhood?
So it is. Yeah, we can change that. Is it a plus?
It's just a
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Just
You can put an S on it.
Yes, I think that's a neighborhood plan, actually calls it.
This
It's
is
a
this is a
statistical neighborhood.
statistical
It is a
thing.
statistical
We can bring
thing.
information, there's a definition that happens at different levels of government,
Yes.
creating statistical neighborhoods based on population. I'm an advocate for taking the hyphen out and doing 3 historical neighborhoods, but if we can get that historical formula.
We can do it.
bring it.
yeah, we can
It's all over
adjust
there.
this.
Thank you, that's a nice comment.
Yeah, I
I
just,
meant, when did they
like,
start
I wasn't gonna mention it, but,
Yeah.
you know, because of the National Western Center,
We
Elyria
lost
doesn't have enough
Elyria.
population to have its own statistical neighborhood. So I would suggest we look forward to the preparative process and split them out. And kind of,
Maybe that's a preferred outcome.
represent the context. I also had a question about these block captains. It's a paid position. I'm curious if non-citizens are able, because they're being paid through the city, I'm assuming, if non-citizens are eligible for that position.
It's actually
They-
paid through us.
They are paid through the consultant technically. So yes, we have experience with that previously. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. This will just kind of highlight a few of the responsibilities.
So a few of the things that these area captains would be leading and helping out with. The first one is participation in 2 of those Howdy and Handout flyer events. We heard pretty strongly from the COW that getting information out is extremely important. This would be an event where not only would folks be able to ask questions, have that qualitative information sharing with the project team, but also go out with the project team, hand out explainers, hand out flyers, have one-on-one conversations within their geographies. Captains will also have regular gatherings between each other and the project team to have conversations, learn about the project, provide input. Maybe that's an opportunity for the survey check that we were mentioning before, which feedback that I loved. Area captains would also participate in 3 community workshops that would happen. Beth mentioned this briefly before, but in each phase, there are 5 community workshops. So 15 opportunities to provide collaborative feedback, and I'll provide more information on that in a second. And then generally, area captains would help with the promotion of survey materials and just really be a project resource for their neighbors. Okay, so connectors. First, we want to acknowledge that people's lives are super busy, right? Like we have jobs and kids and go to school, and there's soccer on the weekends and stuff going on all the time. So we wanted to provide an opportunity to participate as a captain, but like a captain light. This would be a connector. They have just slightly less responsibilities, less of a paid role, and their main role would be to participate in those larger flyering events and help us with outreach of survey and other materials through their channels. Also a paid role, but less. Okay, so we wanted to pause there for a second. So those are 2 strategies. We have many more, but we wanted to.
Capitanes de cuadra es nada más para dejar folletos en las casas o tocar puertas y hablar con familias.
Are the block captains only to like give flyers at the doors, or is it to knock on doors and speak to families?
More so the latter, knock on doors, speak to families.
Well,
Whatever they're comfortable with.
If they're comfortable with.
Yeah, we let's be clear, we don't need you to knock on doors. We wouldn't ask you to knock on doors. But if you know people and you
Yeah.
can have conversations, that would be fabulous. That's part of it.
Porque cuando se tiene una conversación con una familia, ¿verdad? Tocando puertas como capitanes, nosotros vamos con un gafet, ¿verdad? Representando quiénes somos, pero las familias dicen, vienen de la ciudad, no queremos nada con ellos, van a quitarnos nuestra casa, ese es el temor de ellos. Sí.
Yeah, so when we go and knock on doors, we carry like, some kind of identification, but sometimes when people are from the city, they do not want to talk to the people from the city.
Yes. Understood. We have some other design team staff. Christy, do you want to raise your hand? And we will help you also in this communication with your neighborhood. And we can talk about what is the right way to do it. If you're uncomfortable knocking on the door. Yeah, I don't want you to feel you have to do that.
La coalición, nosotros iniciamos con una capacitación de capitanes de cuadra. De hecho, yo fui una de las personas que entré en capitanes de cuadra, en esas clases, y nosotros tocamos puertas, hablamos con muchas familias.
So yes, when I initiated, as part of the coalition, I was one of the block captains, and then we did engage and knock on a lot of doors and talk to a lot of families.
Oh, that's fabulous. Okay, fabulous. Yes, Angela, and then one more. Yeah, Angela.
Thank you, Beth. So to follow up with what Mercedes is saying, is exactly that. There's a lot of distrust of the city within these three neighborhoods. Additionally, I'm glad to see that you're doing captains and connectors. So my other thing is like additionally to like not only knocking on doors, but like maybe meeting at like Emmanuel's Bakery or blah, blah, blah. To that kind of thing, that would be a more comforting place for them to be able to go to. So that is still something that can be done, either the captain and the connector.
Absolutely. And we can support you in those arrangements
And that's why the area captains are so important, that they come from the community, because they'll know, right? We're going to rely on them to understand, to inform us on how best to communicate with their neighbors and what's going to be most comfortable for everybody. So
correct.
That's great.
It's your decision, and we'll help you if you need help.
If they're so imperative to this process, why are they paid so low?
So just the connectors have.
Yeah, but it's like, if this is a lot of work.
The-
It's not like I can make that in one day. That's like an 8-hour shift to me. And this is gonna take more than 8 hours to do.
So the captains are paid $5,000.
Oh,
is
but
it-
this is like, I don't know, I just.
So-
I
the
think
connectors.
The connector role is, we can talk about it. The connector role was meant to be just, I know a lot of people at school and I have a great connection there and I could help with that. It's like such a much more limited role. You're not responsible for all of the outreach. And neither is a captain. We're going to be there with you. We will help. And we'll make sure that you have what you need. We'll have all the materials. We'll give you everything you need. We'll even go with you. We'll host the coffee or whatever. So you don't own the whole problem.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like that. But we do want it to come from someone in the community who understands where is the best place to meet, or how is the best way to connect.
See, the thing is, like, I think everybody is aware of the economy, but we really have to use our time super wisely.
Yes.
How much are we gonna, like, is it a cost benefit for us to actually do this? So we really need to have the income as this community.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we are going to launch the captain program in November. And so give us a little time. We'll think that through and we can sort of think about what other details of this program would make it more acceptable or something that you want to do. And you're welcome to share it with us after the meeting, so we know, okay?
Pero al final de la capacitación de capitanes de cuadra, nosotros hicimos un proyecto fue una limpieza de calles que hicimos en nuestro vecindario de Swansea. Sacamos 2,000 toneladas de electrónicos que estaban en los callejones. Hicimos una limpieza muy grande. Tuvimos muchas organizaciones que nos ayudaron, jóvenes, con las basuras. Fue algo bien difícil, trabajamos mucho todo el día. Nola, todo nuestro equipo de la coalición, vecinos que se nos
So at the
unieron.
end of our training for block captains, we did have a project. We were responsible for a project where we did a cleanup of the neighborhood and took out 2,000 tons of trash. We also had youth
Incredible.
and other community members helping us throughout this.
Yes. Yes.
Y la importancia de conocer nuestros vecinos y sus necesidades.
And the importance of getting to know our neighbors and their needs.
Yes. So a way to also get to know your neighbors and their needs as you're doing this too, so that you're connected.
There's two.
Okay, yes, go ahead and then we'll all,
What would be helpful, I think, for understanding the context of how much the connector and the block captain are paid is, what is the overall budget for outreach? So how much are each consultant paid? What is the budget for doing this entire process? So that we could understand, then what's the percentage of what neighbors are being paid compared to what the whole budget for this process is.
Love that. And and think like an estimate.
It's a lot.
The hours
It's gonna be
involved.
expensive to do all of this.
5,000 for something that goes till 2027? That's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can, part of what needs to happen as a next step as we refine the area captain program is more specifics about exactly what the hour estimate, or requirements are, right? So you can understand how far that 5,000 goes. And so that's all in the works, and that's ahead of our rollout.
Yeah.
But yes, to your question on overall budget, yep, noted, and we will provide some greater level of understanding of what those dollars and how they're being invested prior to the live launch on November 13th.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nola.
To follow up on Mercedes a little bit, I want to propose that the purpose of canvassing, this is a canvas for the purpose of drawing people into the full process. So the cleanup that you mentioned with 2 million tons, that's kind of like where we're going. The project is to come up with a unifying experience to come up with a concept and therefore a project on the triangle. So I think we need to be really aware that the people that are distributing and canvassing are not obligated to be I don't even think they're representative. I think we shouldn't use that term. The goal is to draw people into the process, to have the discussions throughout the process, including, Amanda, the people that may not care about the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of the flipping the switch on what is usually, in my experience, over and over done in Denver. And I hope that's not what you're contracted to do, is to have competing voices, bias surveys, compartmentalized report outs. And it's hugely important that the information from the city offices, from the consultants come into the neighborhoods as part of what can be demonstrated as available when we talk to each other in the neighborhoods. And we need to, and I would ask for an open call into all of the neighborhoods for people that want to apply for these.
That's what
And
that's
not
the plan.
to, so we probably could do that.
Yeah.
And that we make real clear that the job is to precipitate the conversation and get the information out
Yes.
and back in and
Help us meet outreach goals that you guys have. Yes, okay, hold on, sorry. And then Candy.
I'm having a hard time condensing all my thoughts about this, but I'm trying to it's very thorough and I appreciate that. I just feel like there's a lot of resources going into this, and how is it building leadership and infrastructure for the long term in this neighborhood, these neighborhoods. And if we, Mercedes did, that was the first thing that she did like done so much in this community. So how, I guess I'm just wondering how it's like, how is this, if we're putting all these resources into it, and honestly, like both economically, individuals and families in this neighborhood, also community organizations are really struggling right now. You know, we don't even have half of our budget for next year. Like how are, and like all this money is going towards this, and we're expected to yeah, but we like just a little bit like, oh my God, and we're talking about 2 years from now, there's not an RFP until 2 years from now. And a lot of these things feel very familiar, like things that we've already done. So I just wanna, like, I'm not sure how to reconcile all of that, but I'm just like saying my initial reaction.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It is a lot, and it is I mean, maybe we can work to have a balance. We are asking you to participate in a very thorough process, but you also asked us to create all these avenues for engagement, so we did, but it gets pretty big and it gets pretty cumbersome. So maybe just thinking that through, is this, what is the best balance? So that we're not asking too much of you, but we are totally interested, having you do this with us. So I think your reaction is, but I don't know exactly what to do about it yet. Sorry, Candy is next, and then.
It builds on what's being said about the resources, and with all due respect, this is not about you, Beth, but the CAL was very clear about not wanting to hire an outside consultant for this process because of the very reasons that Nola just raised. And so I think on the transparency piece for financials, I would like to see the contract, the public contract that you all have, because hiring you all was antithetical to what we said we needed to see. The CAL. That's what the CAL asked, that we specifically invest in the neighborhood organizations already doing this work in a way that was complementary to their work. And that was completely disregarded by hiring an outside contractor, and now it feels overwhelming and the same as past processes, because it's taking what I know when I look at the contracts is gonna be a disproportionate amount of work for the least amount of resources.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That's what the same thing is.
Understood.
When people say it's the same thing, you all are relying on us for social capital, political capital that you all don't have, which is the most critical component of this project working, or of this process working. And they will get the smallest slice of resources in the grand contracting scheme of things. When I look at your firm, there's one brown person on your staff, and that is the bilingual person who's here today.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable to me. When I look at a firm trying to do deep, authentic community engagement in such a diverse neighborhood. Like, that is part of why we're concerned about co-creation of everything in this space.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a question, it's a request for complete transparency around the contract and the resource division.
Yeah.
I think it's also an important time to name, there was a lot of trust broken in the CAL process.
I understand.
We didn't even see this until today, and I can't read it in that.
I know,
We'll send it to you.
We weren't even invited today. The people on the CAL were not invited to be here today. We heard about it from other venues and things like that. And so it just seems, again, disjointed.
Okay, I thought all organizations were invited.
Not everyone on the CAL was part of the organization.
I got you.
The people you
So
keep
the
referring to that created this, like, we did not even get invited individually as the CAL to come and be present at these meetings.
I gotcha.
Which is a failing immediately of the outreach process when we're the lowest hanging fruit.
Which shows the disconnect between the paid people here versus the community network out here.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying, I'm listening, I'm not sure what to do about it, I'm not sure, I'm just thinking. But I guess, you know, in order to get us to a plan that takes in all those complicated elements of the site, you know, we do have to have some technical people. Right, so we do have to have some technical people.
You
That's
contract with
offensive.
NUCO, right? Is your contract with, it's with,
Yes.
okay, Mike, maybe you can address, because my impression is when you, I'd like to just kind of open up so that to air out what the consultants are directed by your office to do things in certain ways. In the city of Denver, I've noticed with the contracting, there's when the client, when you hire OV, MIG, you're their client. We're not necessarily their client, as much as I'd like us to be their client. But can you address, and I don't know how the outreach was done. I was concerned when it was strictly groups in a little addition. You know, it's good to include everybody and also all the groups can come and be part of it. Right? So can you kind of respond to whether how the cow was engaged and invited, or how that decision was made, and how are the directions going to OV and MIG? Because I think that's where the buck stops, is in your office, and it would be good for us to understand how the consultants can also be our advocates in the process, not just having a process behind the scenes that we don't see, where the administration is trying to direct it. I would love to open that up and help us understand that.
Yeah, so to the cow question first, our intent was to circle back with the cow prior to the November 13th launch, like full public launch of this. These meetings today were intended to be for community organizations, to bring them into the fold and understand at a high level briefing what the process is. And so that was our intent. And I think what our task was to take the recommendations from the cow and figure out how to operationalize those into a plan that we as the city can execute to achieve in a time frame. And it is a long time frame already. And that was one of the things we heard, was to be committed to the process and not try to rush this. It does ultimately come back to us as the city and the mayor's office, who are directing how this is being translated from the cow recommendations into a plan that the city can lead and implement. So realizing that we could have done a better job and should have done a better job communicating with the cow and letting them know of the checkpoint that we will be having prior to the public meeting in November. So that one's on me, and I will take full ownership of that. But I think we've put a lot of time and effort into understanding what the cow goals really were and how we can embed those in a process that we can actually implement over the next 18 months.
And arrive at a plan. We do have to get to a site plan. So I'm just listening to your comments and thinking, yeah, how do we make sure that we're all in this together? How do we make sure who's doing it? And how do you still address the technical components that the team will be bringing?
In that spirit, and I know I'm being a little pushy here, in that spirit, this is all public funds, all of it. And I'm going to say something, and you guys, I hope I'm not putting the consultants on the hot seat. I'm going to ask the NUCO office to embrace, as we develop relationships with MIG and OV in this, a critical thinking around this process, because it's not just on you, Mike. There's a choice and a value system of communication how each decision is made. Do we want to loop the cow in right now to get feedback on this? I want the consultants to be my consultants, the neighborhood's consultants working with my city administration. I want to obliterate the hierarchy. I want to ask so we'll have your backs, be our advocates. Let's discuss this process and let's open it up. That's the only way we're going to break this common problem that I've seen since I came, and I've been here for generations. And one last thing I'd like to say. When you say it's going to be a long process, come on. GS Coalition is coming up on their 10th anniversary. People have been dealing with these issues for generations. Please don't. I mean, it's always too long when we're mortal people. And we need to create a healthy energizing of it, and whether the use of the resources, et cetera. So I just want to acknowledge that this process is infinite. And we want to, I want to see the process where we break into new relationships and like what was being said, Mercedes is a leader, she started out, how is it really strengthening neighborhoods? So we a lot to talk about, but I'm just asking the consultants to meet us, the city administration to open it up, and let's have real democratic, critical thinking, excellent exchanges, and work with our disagreements and work with no hidden agendas. Let's get it all on the table.
Great.
That's my hope.
Okay, thank you, Ray, and I appreciate the
Y
other
de una
comments.
manera transparente y clara.
Yeah.
Yes, I hate to, be the dead cow or whatever. But I do think I just want to reiterate, Mike opened up this conversation today, asking us to help you all be successful in this process. I think it's also important to consider what it takes for the community to thrive through this process and beyond. And so what I'm hearing is a lot of feedback about who's benefiting from this process. And we can't, we're invested, we're committed to these neighborhoods. There's not an alternative, right? But we need to not treat it like a hostage situation. There needs to be.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully we're all benefiting. Hopefully you are benefiting from the process. That would be the goal. I mean, you're not
Depends on the
benefiting
outcome.
me. I'm not personally benefiting. I mean, I'm hoping that we are able to facilitate this with you and get you to where you want to be. That's really, what our role is in this and our technical side.
Están beneficiando todos los desarrolladores y
All
los
the
grandes
developers are
desarrollos
benefiting
que vienen a
out of those
desarrollar y
developments,
generando
so they
mucho
contribute to
dinero.
the community and they do generate a lot of money.
Y la comunidad,
And the
bueno,
community is out.
Okay. Okay.
I have a specific request for a
Yes.
face-to-face, Civic Trust, that you've identified as the survey engineer.
Yeah.
Is as I recall, I'm trying to remember, I think the founder was Matt Harder. Is he still with the firm?
He's the.
I would
He's
request
on the
a
meeting.
face-to-face invitation to bring Matt out into the neighborhoods for a discussion
Yes.
of surveys. That we
Absolutely.
take the cloak back, they're in Boulder, this is a human being. We have been abused by surveys in these neighborhoods, I've
Okay.
seen it happen. Where competing surveys coming from the administration, and I also feel like you would adjust your assessment of benefits to OV and yourself, that it is a benefit to engage in a civic process, not only for the city, we are all learning, including OV, including MIG. And I have seen verbatim words that have come out of discussions in the neighborhoods being put into proposals that consultants, I'm not putting you on the spot or MIG, I have seen the wisdom of people coming out into the neighborhoods from consultancy and saying, tell me how to do outreach. It ends up in proposals and ends up getting funded. And I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge. And every one of us, you guys all live in neighborhoods too. So please consider it a benefit out of respect for, the long engagement that y'all have had. And every day, I assume you're learning things too. And I'm asking you that because I want you to be our advocates in the process, not in a contentious way, but in a deep understanding how you really support the society of a neighborhood.
How do we really support
Yeah.
them
So
through this process? Understood. Okay.
I have one
All
more.
right.
quick
Yes,
question.
one more,
I
and then
don't know-
maybe, we'll
Yeah, I
let
don't know.
everybody go.
Okay, it's not related to this message directly, but I don't know, Mike, maybe you can answer it. The Bobo Landing Park is right next to the capped Coliseum parking lot. Was there cleanup done at that site? I take my kid there all the time.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
massive.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Good
Okay.
question.
It is 11:30.
So it is 11:40
Yeah.
maybe
40,
even, 11:36. Okay, so let's break, but I want to say thank you for coming and thank you for all your comments, and we will be thinking about all of this and trying to align better with the kinds of things we're hearing. Okay?
Please think by Lewis and coffee if you would like some.
Yes, there's a lot.